Hey, welcome to the Stellar Hope Show. In tonight's program, we're going to talk about the hope of heaven. We're going to talk about Cyndi's near-death experience and what she saw. And we're also going to talk about when I had a vision of the glory of God. It was profound. I never wanted it to end. So in the scriptures, what it says that whoever speaks, let them speak as one who utters oracles of God, so that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, the Messiah. So that's what we're all about. We're all about living for God and loving Jesus. And Cyndi is a woman of great love who loves Jesus very much. Cyndi, are you ready to talk about your near-death experience?
Yes, I'd love to talk about my vision of heaven.
Your vision of heaven.
When I first saw the heaven, I was struck by how it seemed to be in a higher dimension than just our three dimensions. And it struck me, maybe that's because in that higher dimension, that's where three become one.
Isn't that fascinating?
And it seemed almost kind of fractal or more substantial, all the things that I saw, and more vivid, all the colors. It was kind of like Earth things plus an indescribable weight and indescribable glory and indescribable something additional added to all the things that I normally see here on Earth.
Well, I love how you say that. There's this verse in the Bible, and what it says, however, as it is written, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love him. And that's 1 Corinthians 2:9. And then it goes on to say, but God has revealed it to us by his Spirit. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. So you actually had a vision. And now, were you dead? Was this actually a near-death experience, or was it a dream or vision? What exactly was it, Cyndi?
I had tried to commit suicide actually a number of times, and once I was very close to death before I was revived in the hospital.
Oh my God.
It wasn't I had an experience, but I didn't really put words to it or write about it or speak about it until much, much later when I was healthier. And then it kind of came back to me in a flood. And I thought, I've got to say something about this. I've got to write something about this. And so I wrote some of it down that I had experienced so much earlier when I was, like I say, in a healthier place. So I was able to describe it more fully and the experience that I had more fully.
Oh, I'm so glad that you wrote those down. And I'm so glad that Jesus healed and delivered you from that depression, and that you are a woman with a purpose, and that anybody can see that your purpose is to love Jesus and tell about heaven and Jesus. Okay, so I personally would define it as a near-death experience. I think that's what it was myself. I think that in a sense, you actually, your soul or your spirit actually did go to heaven and see these things. So how did it start? Give us the whole experience. I'm so excited to hear.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it started where I kind of arrived and was struck by that extra substantiality of everything that I saw.
Wow.
And I was in a garden, a beautiful, beautiful garden. And I love gardens. So God had this garden designed specially for me. It had roses in it, which are one of my favorite flowers. And each rose, when I got near it, was talking to me, each little bloom. One was a tribute to Mother Teresa. And so the blooms were talking about her glorious things that she had done for God. And each bloom saying different things about her life and what she had done.
You know,
And there were many of these bushes for all sorts of people, some who you knew, like Mother Teresa, and others that were totally new that I'd never heard of, but great people to God, very famous to him.
oh, isn't that beautiful that just as regular old people are great people and very famous to him, to God.
Yeah.
That makes a person so happy. Now, when you mention that, I think of a couple of things. In Revelation, it talks about, to those who overcome, God will let them be in the garden paradise of God. So that's written in the Bible. And you mentioned it was just for you that Jesus made you that special garden. And this is what Jesus said. He said, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me, Jesus, as well. In my Father's house are many rooms or mansions or places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I'm going there to prepare a place for you? And since and if I go, and since I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and welcome you into my presence, so that you also may be where I am. So that's basically what you saw. You saw the garden paradise of God. You saw that Jesus prepared that for you, and that thankfully he sent you back. Maybe you didn't want to come. But too bad you're here, Cyndi. And this great prophet, Henry Groover, he died in a car accident and went to heaven and came back. And he said that the flowers were singing and talking to him too.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and my grandpa, he went to heaven, and he says, he called my grandma's name. He says, oh, Mary Julia, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The flowers are so beautiful. And now I wasn't there, but Cyndi, what I heard was really horrible, that evidently my grandma jumped up on the bed on grandpa's deathbed and started shaking him and said, don't you go, don't you go. Well, grandpa says, well, how can I not go? And she says, I'm coming with you. And he says, well, how can you come with me? And then he came back. And so my advice is, don't come back. If a person goes, don't come back. But he lived years longer, but unfortunately he got Alzheimer's. Okay, so you went into this incredible, fabulous world that was so beautiful. You saw the beautiful roses, the roses and bushes made just for you. And then what happened next, Cyndi?
Well, I was participating in some people, their artistic and creative endeavors that I love very much. Michelangelo, I got to do a little sculpture with him and play a little bit on the piano with Mozart. And it was just so thrilling to be a part of these great moments. And here on Earth.
You know, it is easy to get so exclusive. Like I remember once years ago, somehow I thought that the white conservative Republican evangelical was God's chosen, And so I remember I went over to my mother-in-law's house in Seattle, and I was going over there to start a TV ministry over there, which I did. And that night I was asleep, and I woke up because I heard or felt or experienced God crying. He was crying, and his heart, In the Bible, they call it bowels of compassion. You know, he yearns with bowels of compassion. That God's heart was broken. He was crying because every human being on earth he made. So there's every human being, and his spirit is in every single human being. And he wants personal relationship. He loves every human being, young, old, smart, not smart, good looking, not good looking, black, white, red, yellow. Every human being, rich, poor, every human being. So here he is in heaven, and he's having this personal love to each human being. And all he really wants is us human beings to love him back, just to know him and to love him. I think Jesus even said to know him is to love him. And this is eternal life, is to know God. That's eternal life, to know God and then Jesus, the Son. That is eternal life. Well, Cyndi, this is very, very interesting. Now, what else did you see in heaven?
Well, there were a couple things else that I wanted to mention. One was this river of water that was leaping and spiraling and walking and tumbling and just doing all these sort of things. It was fascinating. The living water is what I kept thinking when I saw it.
It is. Yeah.
It made a reflection of me so I could see myself. And I was so astounded by how beautiful I was. Everyone there was so beautiful. And it came to my mind at that time that God sees me that way always. He always sees me that beautiful. Because it's an inner love, peace, and joy that's bubbling to the surface there in heaven. So your true nature comes out.
So our youngest, most beautiful self is how God sees us, and that's how we'll be in heaven. And that river of life, in the Bible, it says the river of life flows from the throne. You know, the scriptures say in him is life. Okay, in Jesus is life, in God is life, and that God fills the universe. That means we have an animate universe. It is alive. Everything's alive. You know, when I look at even rivers here, I think they're alive. They are. They carry oxygen. They are alive. And you saw that specifically in heaven. Cyndi, that is fabulous. You know, no eye has seen, no mind has imagined. Wow.
Yeah.
What else did you see? I'm getting pretty blown away here.
I met Jadasha, who was a tiger, that I could actually talk to this tiger. So the different animals in heaven our spirits are all connected, and our communication, it's like in deep prayer life that everyone is connected to, all our spirits intertwined. And so you could talk to all these animals.
Yeah.
And that was really exciting.
Oh yeah, I believe that's how it was in Eden, because God brought the animals to Adam, and you know, he named them and related to them. Yeah, I believe that's how it was in Eden until the fall. Wow. Well, so you are quite a mystic. This is quite profound.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I just once I started writing it down and thinking about all these things, I was so enamored with how God had prepared this heaven. Like I see, so many things specific to me were there, as well as you say, things from the Bible. Or another thing was there was a permanent rainbow in the sky, and I thought of Dorothy somewhere over the rainbow. And into my mind came the thought, every fictional tale has its root of truth in heaven. So there are unicorns, and there are phoenixes, and there are all sorts of special creatures, mermaids, and stories about that we recognize here on earth that are have their basis of fact in heaven.
Yeah,
So,
in the King James translation, it does mention unicorns. Actually, we're here on earth in the King James translation. And also now God has his living creatures in the book of Revelation and Ezekiel and Isaiah. I mean, there one's like this lion with all these 6 wings and all these eyes, and then a cow or a bull. I mean, yeah, there's great, great, beautiful, incredible creatures.
yeah.
Oh, this is
And
too
so
exciting.
so different from what you expect, like, because they're combinations of creatures, and they've got wings and eyes, and different horns or different things, not as we always see here on earth. So all these kind of magical elements to heaven that we so love to fantasize here on earth will actually be with us when we get to the other side.
You know, Jesus, when he comes again, he's going to be riding a white flying horse, a flying horse. Yeah.
Pegasus.
A Pegasus. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what else? Was there anything else? I think we'll wrap up in a few minutes. Was there anything else that you saw that you specifically wanted to mention?
Oh, I thought I would list here some exciting things that are there to do. Piloting a stealth jet past the speed of light, Niagara bungee jumping, extreme fencing with D'Artagnan, horseback riding on man of war with Mongolian trainers, football in 4 dimensions with Walter Payton, raising a companion phoenix or unicorn, a trip into the holograph rooms, virtual reality. All those things were there available for me to do if I wanted them. I'm a football fan, so that's why Walter Payton was I was especially pleased to see Sweetness there in heaven. But
Oh, wow, that is amazing.
yeah.
Jesus really has prepared a place for you, and he's prepared a place for each of us. You know, I always wanted a pretty house, which I have a pretty house, but I wanted it with a view and quiet and water and lots of mountains and trees and, you know, hundreds of acres and all these animals. And, you know, you give me a hope and inspiration that maybe in this world, maybe I'll never get it. But no, we have stellar hope. We have the hope of heaven. Well,
Yes.
it reminds me of the verse again. No eye has seen, no ear has heard what God has prepared for those who love him. And we'll end it on Revelation 21. And this is what the scriptures say. John, he went to heaven in a vision. So this is what he wrote. And I heard a loud voice from the throne. Now, what's interesting is there's the throne and there's this river coming out of the throne. I mean, the way you described the river was so cool. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the former things have passed away. And the one seated on the throne says, behold, I make all things new. Then he said, write this down, because these words are faithful and true. So Cyndi, Jesus sent you back on a mission to tell the world about this great hope of heaven that we have. So I thank you very much. And hey, let's do our next interview, and then I'll tell you about my weird out of this world experience of being taken to the throne of God in vision. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
I know. Gosh,
Yeah.
so you're a mystic. I love being with you. We all, you know, it's dark, it's depressing, you know, there's coronavirus, it's winter, it's cold. And yet You always cheer me up. We always have a great time.
Yes.
Well, we'll say bye to you and we'll say bye to the viewer. Thank you for joining us. Jesus
Bye.
loves you. Okay. Bye. Bye, Cyndi. Bye.
Bye.